Hello everyone, welcome to Gary Mac Studio. Uh, Today I think I'm going to do another wildlife painting. I don't know if I want to do some deer or some elk or some buffalo. We'll see. First I want to get I want to get my background in and and pretty much get all of it painted except for the animals, and those animals will come in last, but we'll just see how this goes. This is acrylic, and this is well, let me measure it. I made this canvas, and it is 32 by 18, and this is denim. I stretched this with denim, and stretched it myself. I went to a fabric store and bought a roll of denim, and I love painting on this denim with acrylics because it really goes on nice and nice and smooth, and it really works well with acrylics. So we'll just get started on this thing. These acrylics that I'm using are just Liquitex Basic. I've tried just about every brand there is out there, and there's a little bit of difference in some of them, but not that much to justify the cost difference. And I get the same results with these Liquitex Basics, and they're about half of the price of some of those, such as gold and some of those others, and they are just a tiny bit smoother, a little more dense, but not enough to justify the cost, because I can get the very same effect with these. It's just learning how to apply them. And this denim that I stretched, I put 3 coats of real gesso. It's a real thick, heavy gesso. I put 3 coats on it and sanded it in between coats, and boy, it makes just a great canvas for these acrylics. It goes on real smooth. And right here, I'm just getting some color on the canvas, and a background that's going to support all the highlights that I will put up on it. And up in the sky, the sky is just some blue and nothing fancy. And I skipped ahead a little bit here to show where I started painting over that background back there that I'd put on. I didn't want to waste a lot of time just showing you how I did that. And I put some color on, and I put some of these tree trunks in, and now that I'm putting some foliage on these trunks of these trees. And these were aspen trees. I took a picture up in Colorado of a bunch of aspen one fall, and it was just beautiful. And so I'm trying to emulate those. And as I go along, I was going to down in the bottom there where I've got that blue, I was going to put a pond there and maybe some ducks or something, or I thought about putting a moose in there, but I decided to go with a landscape instead of water, and I want to paint some elk. In that it's going to be a grassy field there, and I'm going to paint in some grass and some snow that was a light snow that was on the surface, and modeled in among the grasses, and there was some elk grazing, and I'm going to try and get those in. So we'll just see how this goes. It was just a lot of fun, and I love these beautiful bright colors of fall in Colorado. And you can go along there and look up in some of those mountainside slopes, and those aspen trees will be just so bright of a yellow that it just glows. And then later on, a week or so, they'll turn this this bronze color, and they're just beautiful. And right here, I was going to put some grass in and have a moose down in that area, but I changed my composition. I changed my mind, and I did something else that I think was more conducive to this image. And right here, I'm putting in some tree limbs, and on those aspens they have these dark black splotches bark on them, and they're really beautiful. And they were kind of bright in this, so later on you'll see I put more of a sun glow on them, and putting these branches and everything in, it just makes the trees everything, all this detail. And I'm going to be quiet here for a little bit, and y'all just watch, and we'll see where this goes, because to tell you the truth, at this point, I really wasn't sure what direction I was going to go in. But I had an image in my head of some things that I had seen in different parts of the country and in the mountains. And so I'm going to just take bits and pieces of figments of in my mind and compile an image here. And if it turns out like I think it will, I think it will be very, very pretty. So let's just watch and see what happens, and I'll speed this up a little more. So, and you guys can just watch and learn and see what I'm doing. There's nothing magical about it. It's just observing nature and putting it on canvas, and that's very important when you're out looking or to paint a picture, is observe. Okay, how is a tree constructed? Look at all the properties of it, of the bark, and how it stands in the earth, and the colors, and all the branches, and how the leaves and everything cover up parts of it, and parts of it are exposed, and that's what I'll do here in a little while when I start adding more foliage on those trees. I will start covering up parts of those tree trunks, which when you go out into a forest and look, that's what you're going to see. So this is what I try and get on the canvas. I like realism. I'm not that much for abstracts. I understand them, but that's just not me. That's not for me. I love the realism in true life. And I saw a video a while back of a gallery, and they had this big opening for this guy. And I don't know how many people. There was a gang of people come into this room, and it was a big room, and it had these lights from the ceiling shining down on this wall. And that's all it was these. It was just regular old lights was shining all on the wall, and these people were looking at it, going, "Wow, look at this!" And I'm scratching my head, you know. Okay, whatever floats your boat. Anyway, that's just not me. I like the realism. I like nature. I love everything about it. I've been an outdoorsman all my life. I love to go fishing. I used to go boating nearly every day, water skiing and camping, and I used to have this old Labrador retriever, and he and I would load up the tent and we'd go out to the lake and spend a weekend out there, just he and I, and he'd get in the boat with me and we'd go fishing, and those are the things I love, and these are the things that I try and portray in my artwork, my paintings. And on this brush that I'm using on this for these leaves, it's just one of these little 75-cent brushes like you buy at Home Depot, and I took and I clipped a lot of the bristles out of it and kind of thinned them out, and I just dipped the tip of it in the paint and then dab it on the canvas, and it does a pretty good job of getting that foliage on there. And then I'll come back later with a fine brush and fine tune those a little bit. But you can see here where I've started adding in some foliage to cover up some of those tree trunks. And as you can see here, that I forgot to change my angle of my canvas because it's got the lighting, it's got a glare on it, and I had to make me a note, a checklist. So I made a checklist of every time that I turn the camera off and I have to go do something and then come back, I'll readjust everything to make it right. And so anyway, right here, I'm taking out that pond, and I'm going to put a grassy field there and get a little bit of this snow that was laying on the ground of the image that I'd seen once before in my head. I didn't have a photograph of it, but I remember what it looked like. And so I'm just going to start adding in some grasses, and then I'll put in some darks and some lights. And I can't stress enough the importance of saturation in the contrast between darks and light. Without these lights, and right here you can see where I'm putting in this dark. Without those lights around there, those like values, you have nothing. Those dark areas won't show at all. And so getting those values correct is paramount. Is paramount for having a really good and beautiful painting. And you'll see here in just a little while where I use that very principle to highlight these elk that I painted in here, and I quit trying to talk mostly when I'm painting because it distracts me from what I'm doing on the canvas. So here I started adding in some of these gold colored grasses and some highlights along where the sun is going to shine, ripple down on these bushes and grass and twigs and whatever's in there. And you can see I darkened up those tree trunks. I say I darkened them up. I added some more color, sunlit color to them, because I didn't want them to stand out above my elk. I want that elk to be the focal point. I want that elk to be the first thing you see when you walk up to this painting. I want that elk. I want those elk to be the focal point, and then that's the first thing you see. And then when you do see those elk, then your eye will dance around the rest of the canvas to see what else is on there. And right here you can see I'm putting some shadows in to get those bright colors to glow a little more. And the darker that you do that, the brighter that's going to be. And I came back and darkened up that left side quite a bit because I wanted a sun glow. Right, I'm going to have an elk laying right there. I blocked in a little bit of white area where that elk is going to go, and then I'm going to have the light shining down on him all around in that grassy area, and just put him in a spotlight of where the sun is shining down on it. And then the rest of it over here to the left, I'm putting in shadows. I'm putting in dark colors right now, as you can see. And I want I want that sun. I want it to look like the sun is peeking through some shadow, some cloud, or some trees, and just shining a spotlight right down on that elk. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit more, and we'll see how it goes from there. Okay, I put this in overdrive, and I'll paint fast, and y'all watch fast, and anyone who is learning, just watch the techniques and what I do. I've got a lot of practice in this. I've been painting for 52 years or 53 years. I started painting in 1974, and I have literally painted hundreds or probably thousands. I don't know. I hadn't kept a log of all of them. I wish I had, but back then we didn't have the cell phones where you could just snap a picture at any time. And I do have some old slides of slide photographs back in the 70s and 80s. And okay, so right here you can see I started adding some color into this elk, and he looks more like a rabbit there than he does an elk, but as we go along, he'll come to life, and we'll try and make something pretty of him. And then over in behind him, I'm going to have a couple more. And in these kind of situations, you always want to use like or try not every time, but most of the time, you want to add a odd number like 1, 3, or 5, and instead of 2, 4, or 6. Aesthetically, there's just something about that just doesn't look right if you have even numbers. And I've stated just before in other videos, whenever you order some flowers, like a florist will always have 1 flower, or 3 flowers, or 5 flowers, and then after you get, 7 or so, then it doesn't matter much because if they're odd or even numbers. And but in a situation like this, unless you wanted to paint a whole bunch of elk in there, I'm going to add 3. And as I said, aesthetically, that odd number 3 looks a whole lot better than if I had 4 or 2. I could put 2, and it would look okay, but it will look better with 3 or 5. So that's what I'm going to put 3 in there for now. I don't know. I may go back and put some more. I may put a whole herd down in there. I don't know. And I'm getting some horns on this elk, and then I'll have some more bright sunshine on him. He's laying there in the grass, and I'll paint up some grass around him there where he's just enjoying the scene as much as I am. And I want to get some sun. I want to get some sun glow on him, especially on his back area back there, and on his haunches, and try to get his anatomy correct. Sometimes I struggle with that. Sometimes I struggle with getting the anatomy of animals correct. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. I do struggle with that at times. And I have practice and practice and practice. And I do fairly good, fairly well with it, I think. But I'm not the portrait expert. I can get a similarity of, but to get them exactly like, the anatomy, I just don't. For one thing, I've got this nervous condition, and my hands are really shaky. And if you'll notice, I'll have to hold my right hand with my left hand, because it is shaky. It's weak. I had an accident and severed some tendons in my right shoulder rotator cuff and damaged some muscles and stuff. And it gets really nervous, and I have a hard time drawing. I can't draw a straight line. There's just no way. And actually, a lot of times that works for me because I can just hold a brush up there and paint grass, and not even without any effort. And but right here you can see where I'm beginning to get. I'm beginning to get some light shining down on this elk laying here in this grass. And it's such a fun thing to create these images. This is really not a place. It's just something that I've dreamt up in my head, and other places where I had been and seen, and walked through the woods and the sides of the mountains, and fished in the rivers and streams, and I remember all of that, and I remember my mind. I remember details of things that I love. I can remember in detail of a river. I can remember nearly every rock in a stream where I stood and fished and threw a lure over behind a rock across the creek or river. And I remember those things, and I can duplicate them without having to see a photograph of them, because it's a photograph in my memory. And right here, I've seen these elk grazing out in the field, and that's what I'm putting on the canvas. I'm not looking at a picture or anything. I already know what they look like. So I'm getting these. I'm getting these elk in there, and I started out here, and they're just a little bit small, and I had to make them just a little bit bigger. Anyway, this is just an underpainting to get an idea of the composition for them, and here I kind of zoomed in so that you kind of get an idea of where I'm at on this thing. So now then I'm kind of feathering out the edges of where that sun is going, and as I go along, I will even make this brighter and brighter and brighter as I go. And I like to come to a point, and then I will stop, and I will look at it for a few hours, or even a day, or sometimes even a week before I come back to it. And every time I do that, I will change it. I will put a bright spot here, or a dark spot there, or some sun rays coming across through those trees, or who knows what way this thing will wind up. But I'll put it in the video at the very end to show the finished product. But you see right here, I'm adding more highlights onto this elk. I want him to really shine, basking in that sunlight. And it's such a beautiful thing. I used to go with my daughter, lived in Colorado. They lived up north of Denver at Fort Collins. And we'd go over into Rocky Mountain National Park in the fall, and those herds of elk would come down into Moraine Valley there, and I painted pictures of Moraine Valley, and there would be just hundreds of these elk out there, and each one of these bulls would have his own harem, and they'd be in little segregated places all down in this valley, grazing on the grass, and then the river run right through the middle of it, and listen to those elk bugling, and watch those bull elk. If a bull elk come too close to one of them heron, then the fight was on, and it was just incredible to watch. Okay, I realized that I had my canvas angle wrong, so I readjusted it, and it brought out the true color. So it's not as fuzzy as that last image was. And so now then I'm going to start putting in some snow up around this elk. And this is going to be, to me, it just a serene image, just a serene sight. And I love painting these type of images. It just brings me back to a place I want to be. And if I can't be there, at least I can look at it hanging on my wall. And these are the things I love about painting. Painting is so relaxing. Uh, uh, but I tell you, at times it can be stressful, especially when you have an image in your head and you can't get it on the canvas like you want it to be, and frustration sets in. And sometimes when that happens, uh, it causes stress and irritation. And I've been there many times when I couldn't get a painting to cooperate with what I wanted it to do with it, and them brushes won't they won't they won't they won't obey, and it can get very frustrating. And sometimes I'll just stop, and I don't know how many canvases I've just stopped and painted and gessoed over them and just started over or started a different painting. I don't know how many times I've done that. It's been a bunch of them. And a painting like this, though, but I don't have those problems as much as I've used to because I've practiced so much of and learned my own techniques of how to apply the paint and how to get a vanishing point and focal point and all of that stuff. It just kind of comes natural now, and I don't have those problems like I used to when I was a younger painter. Most of the time, every once in a while I will run into a stump, and I'll get frustrated, but not like I used to. And I don't get frustrated like I used to. If I run into something and I can't get it to look right, I'll just stop and go to something else. And this a painting like this one, I'll have about 3, maybe 4 hours in it, if that much. I doubt if I have that much. Usually, rarely will I spend over 4 hours on a painting, unless it's a big painting with lots and lots of detail in it. And but this particular one, I'm going to say between 2.5 and 3.5 hours, maybe. And what you're seeing now, it's on regular speed, real time speed. It's not sped up. And I'm getting down close to the end of this thing, and right now I'm getting some of these dark images in, and I'll get some shadows in behind them, and I'll get some more grasses in. And here in a moment, I'm gonna stop and take a break, and then I'll come back to it in a little while, and I'll try to get this posted tonight, this evening, because it takes about as long to edit these videos, it takes as long to do that as it does to paint the picture. And I'm an amateur at it. I've only been doing this now for about 4 or 5 months, doing these videos to put on YouTube, and so I'm learning as I go. And I know I'm not polished and I'm not perfect and I'm not a professional at it, but it's a lot of fun. And the reason I'm doing this is I want to share what I've learned over the years, in my 50 years of painting. And I have some people that are following these paintings, these tutorials, and one like this one. I always tell them, I said, grab a paintbrush and your easel and set it up and just follow along. And I know I sped them up a lot on some of it, but you can pause it and catch up and then go some more. So right here I'm putting in some of the grass, and I'm going to come in. I noticed that I need to put more highlights in around that bull elk there. So I sped this thing back up and shorten it a little bit because I'm at about 40 minutes, and by the time I get through with it, I'll be close to an hour in the video. And as I said, I've probably got about three and a half hours in it, somewhere in there. 3.5 hours. I hadn't timed it. I don't know. I hadn't logged my actual brush hours on it because I take a lot of breaks, and I'm going to take one here in just a moment and go eat some lunch because it's 1:30 here in Texas, and I'm going to go eat some lunch. And my wife is not feeling well. Our daughter come down with COVID, and my wife started feeling bad yesterday, so hopefully she's okay. And she's quarantined back in the bedroom right now, and I'm trying to stay away and keep everything sanitized, and hopefully I don't get it, but well, we'll just see. It's one of those things. I've had that COVID 2 or 3 times, and it never did get real severe. I run a fever for a day or so, and then be congested for a few days, and then I'd be over it. But I try and take care of myself. I try to eat right, and in fact, me and the wife went on a carnivore diet. It's been probably 8 or 9 months ago, and my wife, since we've been on a carnivore diet, we feel so much better, so much more energy, and she's lost 70 pounds, and I lost 40 pounds. I went from 220 to now weigh 180, and she went from 240 and she's down to 170. So she's lost a lot of weight, and we just feel a whole lot better. And we every once in a while we will cheat and eat a hamburger or something with some carbohydrates, but we cut out carbohydrates for the most part, and every once in a while we'll eat some, but Not anymore, because I went to the doctor and my blood sugar had elevated a little bit, so that's when we went on. That's why I went on this carnivore diet. And there's an image of where I'm at right now. And by the time I get through with it, I think it's going to be really pretty. I'm going to put some more highlights in that grass around that bull elk and those other two back in there. And do a little bit more on him and a little bit more highlights and get him to really shine. So I'm just about through with this. I'm going to put a little bit more highlights right around this elk. And for the sun's kind of shining bright down in that area, and I'm going to add a little bit more on the elk itself, bring him a little bit brighter. I want him to shine just a little bit more, so he'll kind of stand out around, because all of that, those trees are so bright. I want this. Want that elk, that sun to really accentuate that elk there. So I'm putting just a little bit brighter sunlight on the elk, and we'll just see what this looks like. I'm not through with it. This was such a fun painting. I really did enjoy this one. I changed the composition 2 or 3 times, but I think it's working out in the end. And hey guys, y'all please subscribe and hit the thumbs up button, hit the like, and hit the notification button, and you'll see me next time I do one of these. And I'm going to start another one tomorrow. I did one of a study of some clouds. I want to do another study of some clouds. And don't forget the giveaway, y'all. Reply to me and win a painting. Love y'all.